What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Mount Rushmore edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And Rob DeFelice.
Hey.
It's been a while since we've done a Mount Rushmore, last one being June of last year. So, check back on that Darkcast. Actually, the last two were Darkcasts on the... That was actually a 3-part thing. Now I'm looking at that. It was our big, long Mount Rushmore of heels and baby faces of all time. No wonder we decided not to do a Mount Rushmore for a little while if we did 3 back-to-back massive lists of that.
If we upgraded this to the 6 grandfathers by now? Or we're not woke enough yet?
That's something that we should actually talk about. We did talk about this when... that was kind of brought up with like CM Punk. I am fully into the idea of adding that potential in there, especially if we are sort of stuck.
We do 12 anyway. We could absolutely do 6 grandfathers.
I mean, we usually do groups in different kinds of A tier, B tier, C tier, whatever. This Mount Rushmore of baby faces and heels that we did is like, I don't know, 30 different groups of like the brooding baby face A tier and the white meat baby face B tier and whatever the hell. So, it might be the 4, it might be the 6, or we might do supplemental lists and, do whatever. We're kind of winging it to a certain extent, in the sense of we didn't prepare our lists ahead of time and we don't have our here's the debate list is whatever, but this topic that we're going to do today, again, we're kind of winging it with that too. We're trying to think of something that could be relevant to what's happening right now. And what is happening right now more than anything else is we're on the road to WrestleMania. And even though there are plenty of little tiny side stories that we could go into, and there are like very specific things that we could dive into as far as like, hey, what's the Mount Rushmore of Brock Lesnar's opponents at WrestleMania or whatever. Why not just do WrestleMania moments? It's the biggest WrestleMania type of topic that we haven't gotten into yet, because the only one that we did do in the past was who is Mr. WrestleMania, the 4 Mount Rushmore options of that. And yeah, this is one of those things that I don't personally have the ability to say like, oh, I remember all the matches of all the WrestleManias. I haven't even actually seen all of the WrestleManias 100% all the way through. I think there's like 3 that I didn't watch all the way, and there are plenty that I couldn't fucking remember who opened the show for WrestleMania 4 off the top of my head, or any of those kind of that was a hell of a tag team match between the Quebecers and so in 1980 something, right?
I can name what opened the match. What opened the show at WrestleMania 4.
What was it?
That was bad.
What was it?
It was a 20-man battle royal.
Battle royal? Was it good?
I like it, but I promise nobody else does.
Well, match-wise, that's going to be a big factor here, but it doesn't have to be just matches either, because this is going to be the Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania moments. So the difference maker being, you could go with a whole match. You could be making the argument of something like Steamboat and Savage. A lot of people absolutely love that match. I'm somebody who thinks that it's overrated in the current mindset, but you could be like, okay, that in and of itself is a top moment. Or you could just say, well, the real moment for WrestleMania 3 is Hogan slamming Andre. And yes, we're going to talk about Hogan slamming Andre because it's obviously one of the main contenders of something like this for most discussions. But maybe your moments of WrestleMania aren't match-based. There are plenty of moments that are good to great that are not within the bubble of an actual in-ring performance or, bell to bell or something. There are surprise returns. There are promo segments. There's moments within matches. We could end up with a list where it's like 2 moments within the same match or something. So it's all encompassing on that front. And obviously, as we talk about all these ideas and we start debating and we try to figure out the options that we're going to go with. We want to know what you guys have to say about our thoughts and our responses and what your responses would be and stuff. So drop your comments on whatever platform it is you're listening to us. If you're on Spotify, if you're on Apple Podcasts, if you're on smarkandmoment.com, it's another great way for you to just leave a comment. But if you're on YouTube, then make sure that you take care of all the other good things that you could be doing here. Hit the like button, hit the hype button, share, subscribe, ring your notification bell, click on the join button, get yourself access to the Darkcast tier or any of the other things like that. $1 a month, greatly appreciated, especially the more people that do it, especially nowadays. So if you think that we're worth $1 and change per month, then, you know, that's a good morale boost. If you don't think we're worth $1 a month, I don't even know why you're listening to us at that point. It's like not even worth $1 a month. Patreon's the exact same thing, though. Redbubble and TeePublic is where you can get your merchandise to. And another place where you can chat it up is our Discord server. So hop on over to those channels if you're interested. You can find the link on the sidebar of smarkandmoment.com or below on YouTube. Also, just one more housekeeping thing. Keep in mind, we have the Smark Madness tournament going on right now. So our version of March Madness is based off this year, who is the greatest rival of AJ Styles' career. So if you want to vote on that, round 3 is currently going on right now. We are on the final 4, if I remember correctly, of John Cena, Kevin Owens, Kurt Angle, and Christopher Daniels, who are the 4 that are currently still in there. So vote on that if you're interested in picking who the greatest enemy of AJ Styles is.
I can't believe Kevin Owens made it that far.
I'm not too surprised, to be honest. Although I did think that Daniel Bryan could have potentially beaten him, but most of the votes so far have been like pretty solid of like one direction compared to the other. There hasn't been any ties or anything. So yeah, vote on that while you're interested and keep doing that going and everything. Let's get into this Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania moments. I am just going to, bury the lead in one thing. One of the ones that probably people are going to say we should just throw in there, but I think we can't necessarily lock anything yet, would be Andre being slammed by Hogan. It's just, I think if there's like a reel of highlights of WrestleMania, and you said, I'm only going to put a few in there, you'd be like, all right, well, Hogan slamming Andre, and then, so-and-so and whatever. But if you had to narrow it down to one moment that kind of defines WrestleMania, there's a good argument that that's what it is. Not my personal favorite moment, just from, me being a fan that WrestleMania 3 came out what year? That was
87.
87. So I would have I wouldn't have been born yet at that point. Yeah. If that would have been spring of 87. So I'm a couple months old. And, you're watch it
gestating
after.
Right now. You're gestating right now.
Yeah. I was hanging around, maybe I was listening to it or something. I don't know. My dad wouldn't have bought the pay-per-view, but maybe I overheard something about it. So I watched it after the fact, and I watched it, young enough as a kid that it still resonated in some ways, because by the time I was young enough to be watching wrestling, you figure like 4 or 5 years later or so, it wasn't that long ago that WrestleMania 3 had happened. And it still had that kind of flair to it of like, that's the WrestleMania moment, other than essentially the one clip of Hogan walking to the ring, and you got like Cyndi Lauper and like all the people around, and but it's the obvious thing, and there's plenty other obvious ones we're going to talk about too, so maybe something bumps it. But Hogan slamming Andre seems like it's all right, let's just put that on the potential list and get it out of the way.
It is weird that no one ever talks about WrestleMania 1 in any other context other than, well, the whole event is the moment, like there's no, and Muhammad Ali got in the ring and knocked out Piper, or there's like Liberace with the Rockettes, which is an anomaly in and of itself, but it's not like the greatest Mania moment. But yeah, like when you start thinking of Mania moments, the first real one you think of is Hogan slamming Andre.
Because you look at like WrestleMania 1, all the context surrounding that is just not really about the wrestling itself. It's all the celebrity cameos are kind of the big thing that everyone goes back to. It's it's Cyndi Lauper coming out with Wendy Richter. It's Liberace and the Rockettes. It's Muhammad Ali on the outside. Mr. T in the main event. Who's the guy that Andre like chokes in a backstage interview?
That's WrestleMania 4.
Oh, that's WrestleMania 4. I thought that was.
Yes.
Nope,
okay. 4.
That's fine. Well, either way, it's like there isn't really a standout wrestling moment of WrestleMania 1. But that wasn't the point of the show. And WrestleMania 2 is just a complete mess of a show where they decided to do it from 3 different arenas and go one after another. So basically, after the first show ended in, I can't remember which one that was. I can't remember what stadium that was, but then they just had to sit and wait and watch the other. I don't know if they're even watching the other stuff on TV or whether they just left and went home after their part of the show had ended. But so it's really WrestleMania 3 is. I mean, WrestleMania 3 has 2 moments. The 2 moments are the Savage. It's like a moment for the wrestling fan and a moment for the sports entertainment fans. The sports entertainment fans are for the Hogan slamming Andre, and the wrestling fans for Savage and Steamboat, which, for the standards of the time, was probably, the best modern equivalent of a WWE match that had been seen up to that point, or at least very high up there at that sort of profile and scale. So, but definitely, like, it's definitely a top contender is the Hogan Andre thing, because that's like the clip that started so many, not just WrestleManias, but just wrestling pay-per-views or whatever. I can remember a period of time when I first got into wrestling around about like the early 2000s, like every single like little build-up thing they did before a wrestling pay-per-view would just be like a cycle of big WWE wrestling moments, and it started with Hogan slamming Andre. Like, it's the defining moment of that rock and wrestling era, let alone just WrestleMania 3 or WrestleManias in general.
It's arguable that it's the defining moment of WWE. Like, just in general.
There's a genuine argument to be made that it's the most important match in WWE history.
Yeah. Now, do not conflate that, anybody that's listening, to saying the best, because it is certainly nowhere near a great match. Like, that I think there's a moment. Yeah. I think
there is a serious argument to be made that is the worst WrestleMania main event from a quality standpoint in history.
It might very well be. It's nobody is going to be like, hey, I want to watch a good match. Let me watch WrestleMania 3 because, man, there's this part in it outside of Hogan slamming Andre. I couldn't tell you one more thing that happens in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you remember that moment where Hogan, Andre had the bear hug in. He kept it on for about 5 minutes.
So, I mean, if we're talking WrestleMania 3, and we did mention, there is the Savage and Steamboat thing. From a modern wrestling lens, to me, it doesn't hold up. And it's one of those things that you have to take with the grain of salt of things change over time. And when you show somebody the original Star Wars, if you show it to them now and you don't give them any context, a kid would be like, this looks janky, this is stupid, this is old, and the special effects are garbage. But you have to admit, back when Star Wars came out in the 70s, that it was groundbreaking and absolutely flabbergasting and insane. And Savage and Steamboat, I mean, compared to Hogan and Andre, it's like, it's a gold, 5-star S tier type of a match in comparison. But I personally do not find that match a match that I would go back and rewatch. And for all the people that are like, that's one of the best moments of WrestleMania history, to me, what that represents is what the future matches could be, and then those future matches far exceeded it to the point that it's no longer as important compared to the way that the quality of some other matches have been. So you need the groundwork, but that brings in that discussion of, if you're only going to go with the classics because they laid the groundwork, you can never advance beyond that. And I've always been the type of person that when I talk about movies, for instance, people go, the Mount Rushmore of movies of all time. It's Gone with the Wind, and it's Casablanca, and it's Wizard of Oz, and it's whatever. And it's like, so there hasn't been a better movie made in decades. No, like I'll say Shawshank Redemption is a far better movie than Gone with the Wind or something, and
you probably think Glenn Ross is a better movie than Gone with the Wind.
I would much rather watch I've watched Glenn Ross God knows how many times. I've watched Gone with the Wind one time and I was bored to tears for a good portion of it, but I recognize its importance, but that doesn't mean that I think that it's you can never stack on top of it. So to me, Savage and Steamboat, I would be very surprised even if we advanced this to the Six Grandfathers. I don't think I wouldn't be able to find 5 things that would beat it. Yeah.
As a moment, no. As a match, it gets on there. But we're talking moments.
And we're also talking 42 WrestleManias. So you go back in time to when I was a kid, and it's like you could get the WrestleMania box set of VHS tapes because it was only 12 of them. Well, then, yeah, it's one of the best matches of WrestleMania history. There's only been 12 sets of matches. But you compare that to one of the ones that I'm going to toss out here of, right after that, another pretty obvious one that's like a contender. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart, WrestleMania 13. You bet your ass I'm picking that match over Savage and Steamboat. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, as I say, if we're going for obviously the match itself is like excellent as well, and there's obviously no questioning that. But the moment itself is Austin, the blood pouring from his face as he's trapped in the sharpshooter, and eventually passing out to it. That would be the moment that goes on to this. But it's definitely it's the one that they decided to build a whole Hall of Fame category around. Seemingly, it's if they decide to do it again or continue going on with it. But yeah, so I think almost by definition, by the fact that it's like a Hall of Fame worthy moment, then it probably should be on our Mount Rushmore as well.
Not only is the moment itself of the blood coming down Austin's face and the submission ending to it and all, not only is that a great moment and something that now it's a Hall of Fame moment, whatever, but it's also the match itself is just one of those matches that is on the list of, if somebody said to me, I want to get into pro wrestling, what should I watch? It's arguable that this would be the match that I would tell them to watch too. It's an iconic thing that made huge ripples into everything that came afterward. Like, yeah, no brainer for me.
I used to say that this is the match I would tell people to watch. I think we're so far removed from that I would no longer tell people to watch that until they said to me, I want to get into older wrestling. Because that is a perfect match. I for my money, that's a perfect match. And the moment itself is so iconic, and we can say this with great confidence because it's been done so many times. Impossible to duplicate. Like, everybody's tried to do the whole he passed out in the submission hold. It doesn't work as well when you're not bleeding and the blood is pouring down the guy's face in such a perfect way that you get a money shot that sells T-shirts for 30 years.
316 day just passed by and stuff too, so yeah.
And not only that, but the taboo of the blood at the time. The fact that most people genuinely go, well, WrestleMania 13 is iconic. No, it's a one-match show. It's the definition of a one-match show, but that match is perfect, and that moment is iconic, and that's definitely in the discussion, if not already locked in.
I mean, you're forgetting the other big moment of that show, which is Sid shitting himself.
Yeah, I mean, Sid definitely shits himself, and and God bless that man. He's only ever main evented WrestleMania. That's how good Sid is, and he shit himself one of the times.
I don't think Sid's making the Mount Rushmore here, but love us some Sid on this podcast here and there.
If he does, it's a mudslide.
I would say that moving swiftly past that, if we it's going like chronologically, I think because I've just been having a look through like just to refresh my memory of stuff. I think the next great moment chronologically from the Hogan Andre Slam is Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth reuniting at WrestleMania 7.
That's another big moment for the early years, yeah.
Yeah, because like that they told a whole. It's been such a long story that they told for that back in the days where they really did proper long-term storytelling. Because that basically the embers of that moment stretch all the way back to like WrestleMania 4.
It's a 2-year moment. It really is.
With Savage winning and then forming the Mega Powers pretty much immediately after that with Hogan, because Hogan helped him win the title, or at least helped him fight off Andre's interference in the match. The form Mega Powers implode for WrestleMania 5, and Elizabeth's forced to choose sides, and then Savage goes on his arc with Sherry, the King of the Ring, all of that stuff. Then leading to this moment where he fights Warrior in Warrior's greatest ever WWE match, and retires off the back of it. Well, air quotes retires off the back of it, of course. And just reuniting with Elizabeth, it was just okay. This is like we've had this full circle moment where we waited years and years with these two that had grown up together in the business, and we've become accustomed to the partnership. That being away for so long, and then it just coming back together. It's just that was a special moment, and like the defining moment of that show, because no one else likes to remember anything else that happened on that show, because it was all just everything else was so Iraq War quoted, like coated and stuff like that.
It's funny because that's another one like Austin Brett where the match is perfect. As far as, especially for a Warrior match, that match is perfect. That's a perfect Hogan era finisher fest when they weren't really doing that kind of stuff, wrestling match. And you see Savage throw everything at Warrior and just at the end of the day not have enough. And then Sherry beats him up, and Liz obviously saves the day. But that's a 2-year story, literally. Savage gets with Sherry in a segment that is filmed on the night of WrestleMania 5, where Sherry attacks Liz. They go on and do their thing. Liz cost Randy his match at WrestleMania 6. She's involved in the whole Dusty Sapphire tag match thing. And a lot of people don't realize that, but she's not seen again until she's sitting in the crowd at WrestleMania 7. And it's such a good moment. And it's one where like people are genuinely crying. Like they always
in tears.
Who's crying in the crowd, but like that was perfect. And yeah, I think that's a beautiful WrestleMania moment.
I'm adding that. No, I'm not bothering to put the spreadsheet up on the screen right now because I don't think anybody really cares to just see a spreadsheet of text at this moment. But that's one of the ones that I'm adding into like our tentative list because it's definitely a big moment for there. I'm going to rattle off some that I asked Google, the Google AI search thing, and I'm just going to rattle off these things that we are certainly not going to pick. But for some reason, when I said, give me the top 50 WrestleMania moments, it didn't put Savage and Elizabeth on there at all. But it did put some of these things on there. And I just want to put them out there as like, yeah, we're not picking this. There's no way that we're going to go in these directions. But I'll mention it for the sake of it. It says Junkyard Dog Moment WrestleMania 1. It doesn't even specify what.
Yes, the great Junkyard Dog moment of him losing the chance to become the Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah, like what? It says Mr. T being involved in WrestleMania 1.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing that happened. It's not like a moment, is it?
Yeah, like, I don't know if that's, that great moment where he was there and, whatever. And I don't think we're necessarily going to go with Mr. T and Piper from WrestleMania 2, but at least it makes more sense than WrestleMania 39, Grayson Waller segment with John Cena.
So
that's apparently one of that's like the 47th or whatever best WrestleMania moment ever. Huh?
And it doesn't exist.
It's like the stupid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, he wasn't on WrestleMania 39, was he?
No, he wasn't. You're talking about Austin Theory beating John Cena at WrestleMania 39.
It's got the Snoop Dogg thing with the Miz. As like,
that's many reasons.
Well, that's a funny. Yeah, Shane McMahon like just immediately tearing like his quad or something in the middle of a match. Like that's a funny WrestleMania.
Yeah, funny, and at the time it was great for what it was, but it's certainly not what they had planned, and it's certainly not a Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania moments. It's got Cesaro winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Yeah, right.
A memorable moment for many reasons. Largely, they did. It set
the zero follow up to it.
About the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
A bunch of these are just like I love that it says Logan Paul WrestleMania performances various. That one moment of him having matches. A lot of this is just, it's like garbage, but that's what happens when you ask AI something. Is it either works extremely well or it acts like it's got a brain injury or something.
Yeah. Well, let's do AI's job for it, because so again, not necessarily just always having to go chronologically, because we can just throw out moments that have it. But like, I think like the next one, WrestleMania 8 doesn't really have any moments to it, I think.
So,
well, if we go through WrestleMania 1, I don't think we're picking anything from WrestleMania 1, really.
No.
As much as it's like that whole argument of,
I don't think
the foundation and blah, blah, blah. It's like, who's going to watch that and go with those moments and go in, you might picture WrestleMania being Hogan walking to the ring, but you're going to say the moment of WrestleMania Mount Rushmore is Hogan walking to the ring? No. Yeah.
So I will give GPT credit. Since you asked AI, I specifically said best moment from every Mania, and it didn't give me a lie of Grayson Waller and John Cena. It does actually give me moments. For WrestleMania 8, it gave me the Ultimate Warrior returning, save Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, but that whole match is just a fuck up anyway, because like it only happens.
The whole thing is
after Sid has had to kick out of the leg drop because they missed Papa Shango's mistimed his interference and everything. So it's like, the next one I have in mind is WrestleMania 9, and again, your mileage on this moment may vary, but it's obviously
it's a
Hogan.
moment.
It's Hogan coming back to, well, let's say coming back. He wrestled earlier in the show, but winning the title after Yokozuna and immediately won it at the end of the show. It's probably one of the most polarizing moments in WrestleMania history. I don't know if it's even polarizing. I think most people nowadays hate it and what it represented, but like at the time,
it was debatable, at least for many, many years, as like, wow, what a great moment, because it was presented as such, and it was, again, like, that's very much in my wheelhouse of being a kid, where they didn't have that kind of behind the scenes stuff as much. So from my perspective as a kid watching that and being like, this just happened 2 years ago or so, that was like, fuck yeah, man. How cool was that Hulk Hogan came back and beat Yokozuna? It sucks that he lost it to Yoko, but I hope that Brett wins at Mania 10. And like, then the years go by and you eventually reach a point where you go, yo, he's an asshole.
I mean, That one's such an interesting thing because he really is an asshole. Like, that moment makes no sense. There's no world where that moment makes sense.
Yeah,
and it's explained away because it's literally just, well, he's Hogan. Of course he did that.
yeah, he just comes out, and I guess the only explanation I could say is that Yokozuna just decided to challenge him randomly for defend his title after he just had a match, and Hogan just wins because that's what Hogan does. And again, this was a time where they were seemingly trying to rehab Hogan because this was post the steroid scandal. He obviously looks significantly smaller than he had done in previous years, and yeah, that's like they just cut the legs under both Brett and Yokozuna before Yokozuna could just win it back before Hogan goes on his adventures in WCW. So again, it's still I think it's a moment that a lot of people remember and reference still. So, and it's like when we talk about like moments, the biggest moments of WrestleMania history, we don't necessarily have to say they're good moments.
True.
They can just be.
I mean, like, I think this is a Mount Rushmore bad moment of WrestleMania.
It's a memorable moment. At the very least.
I wouldn't even say it's a Mount Rushmore bad moment because there's just so many like pointless matches or like weird decisions that are like on the lower card of things. And, you know, if you're going to say like the value of something could depend on also like the surprise element of it and like the importance of it and all that, I would say like it's a better moment of Yoko getting the title and then losing it, as much as it sucks, than it is that like, you know, the matches that are on WrestleMania 9 are like Shawn doesn't even have like a great match, and like you got like Crush and Doink and all them, and like, you know, you watch WrestleMania 9 and you're like, there's not much to take away outside of like some atmosphere stuff. But that leads to WrestleMania 10. And as much as I would bypass, you know, we didn't say like Savage winning the title on WrestleMania 4. I don't think that that's, you know, a moment. Or like a lot of people would say Hogan Warrior would be on there for WrestleMania 6. To me, I'd outrank that on a lot of other things. But WrestleMania 10 is very high up on my list of like, I enjoy the fuck out of WrestleMania 10. And I enjoy it for a few reasons. Mostly there's 3 reasons for it.
Probably most people's 3 reasons.
Yeah. To a certain extent, when I was a kid, I thought that Savage and Crush having a Falls Count Anywhere match was like, yo, this is like blowing my mind. But like, you know, eventually over time you go, okay, well, that's not really worth it.
Let's clarify.
So WrestleMania 10 was 94. So like 7.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh my God, he hooked him up to the back of the thing or whatever like that. But the real takeaways, yeah, you know, like I said, it got lower as years go by. But what continues to stay towards the top is Brett and Owen, and then Brett beating Yoko and having that moment with Owen at the end of the show. And to me, it's like they're 2 separate moments, but it's the same moment, kind of, you know.
I think in terms of visuals, because when we're talking WrestleMania moment, we're talking visuals. I think there's 2. There's Brett holding up the title at the end of the show, which ended up in every Bret Hart video package.
Holding up Brett, and you know, this is ignoring the ladder match. We're going to get to the ladder match.
The moment of Shawn jumping off the ladder.
The ladder match is the match.
When I was growing up, it was talked about as one of the most iconic WrestleMania moments of all time. Now, I don't know how many people are saying Shawn jumping off a ladder with a body splash is an iconic WrestleMania moment, even if it's one of my favorites of all time.
It's one of the things you have to, again, put it in the context of the event itself. I mean, that was, like, I think that was the match that surpassed Savage and Steamboat as like the greatest WrestleMania match, even though arguably the match that kicked off the show as well was surpassed it as well in terms of the Brett and Owen match, often referred to as like the greatest opening match in WrestleMania history. And then you have this ladder match. I'd say the match itself is just iconic for that reason. But then, yeah, the defining moment of that is the splash off the top, because it's just something that you wouldn't have seen at the time. So again, you have to put these things into context. You can't just look at it and say like, oh, well, we see people do that every single week on like AEW or something like that. But it's like, but you can't just always look at things with that lens, because then you're not taking into context of what it meant to the people at the time.
Yeah, and that's where I sound a little hypocritical when it comes to like Savage and Steamboat and me being like, yeah, things have surpassed it. But at the same time, I'm like, that ladder match at WrestleMania 10, like entire careers were built off of people being like, that match got me into it, or, you know, that's a whole style that's different and all. And I could see other things potentially taking that off the list, but both the Brett thing and the ladder match are the two things that, like, WrestleMania 10, it's like, okay, you can throw them in there.
I mean,
yeah, I think we can both. They're definitely in discussion, or at least like worthy of discussion.
I completely agree. I think we skipped over it, and it's not going to make it. But like Hogan Warrior, especially like the ending of Hogan Warrior, is probably up there for certain people of a certain age, just like the Brett thing is for Tony.
Right.
I thought I was the one that went to conk out of these discussions. I'm pretty sure. Me and Tony discussed the Warrior thing and said we weren't gonna choose that one.
Yeah, it's on that, like, you know, I have that up on the side as being like, yeah, we could talk about that, but we're gonna pick up something other than
the most notable thing there, something not a lot of people mentioned, but first use of pyro was in Warrior 1.
Did they not use any kind of pyro before that?
They did not.
Really? Huh. I didn't know that.
That goes in the Mount Rushmore of pyro moments of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Yes. Can we turn transferring over to WrestleMania 12, because I don't think anyone really needs to discuss anything about 11, because why the fuck would you?
You're talking about 12. Lawrence Taylor's not going to get on this list now.
WrestleMania 12. I don't really want to reference the Iron Man match, because the Iron Man match, to me, most overrated match in WrestleMania history. Like, it's an okay match that goes on way too long. And it's like the boyhood dream thing. So obviously, it's a big moment for that era of professional wrestling. But I say the iconic moment of WrestleMania 12 is the entrance.
Yeah, I was going to say
it's Shawn's entrance. It's not the match. It's not even Shawn winning the title. It's the entrance. It's the iconic moment. And for me, that's, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I can't really recall it too much, because I obviously wasn't watching a lot of like the older WrestleManias. But that feels like the moment where they go with, now WrestleMania's the time to do these grand entrances.
Oh yeah.
Is that entrance, because otherwise it was just like people doing their own entrance, maybe with like some new gear and something like that to mark the moment. But that was like, oh, WrestleMania needs to have these big entrances now, because Michaels did that
as a product of that era, and with Brett and Shawn being 2 out of my 3 top favorites of all time. To me, the Iron Man match is always going to be a special thing. It's one of the reasons why it's the end of every single podcast. But I do agree with people that say, like, you know, over time, the actual match itself doesn't hold up as well, like bell to bell. There are moments where it's a little bit on the flat side. I still think that it's a great match. I still think it's one of my like go-to moment WrestleMania things and stuff. But in the overall grand scheme of that segment, the entrance for Shawn, the fact that it's an overtime sudden death, and, you know, the boyhood dream comes true thing at the end, and that, like, it's bookended more so than the actual match itself. So I could definitely be in the agreement of, like, the entrance overshadows some of the other parts.
It's just an iconic moment. And again, when I think of WrestleMania moments, I think of visuals. And that visual was in every Shawn Michaels video package for a good, you know, like 10 years.
It'll
so.
still be on there. Yeah.
Like that was such an important thing for him and just him, but sometimes, especially in that era, WrestleMania is built around one guy.
What an insane risk to do. Because that fucking WrestleMania 12 has a 60-plus minute Iron Man match. They didn't have a strong card going into there. And, like they half-assed their way through this Gold Dust and Roddy Piper thing to be interesting and all that. And like Undertaker and Diesel's a thing, but it's like, it's not a strong card. And imagine something goes wrong in WrestleMania 12 during that entrance. You got an hour and a half to fill or something, and what do? That's risky. But that set the tone of like grandiose entrances at WrestleMania, and now we've seen them do practically everything, and they've repeated the same things, and they've done worse versions of things. They've gotten into the habit that they, for some reason, have been doing for the past like 10 years or so, where they're like, what would be really cool? What if they come out in a car? And they just pull up and that's it. And you're like, well, you ran out of ideas, didn't you? And then they do, people doing all sorts of different crazy things and crazy gear for WrestleMania and elaborate entrances with video packages and all that. And it's like, yeah, you could probably point that down to Shawn at WrestleMania 12 being the main one. Because it's not like anything went absurd and like, really, spectacle wise for like, that great Junkyard Dog WrestleMania one moment or whatever. It's not anything crazy like that. But, so that's somewhat then on the list too. And I don't think there's really anything else for WrestleMania 12 worth talking about for that. Because the
unless you want to include unless you want to include the fact that they used footage from the O.J. Simpson chase in the match. But, I don't think there's... Third time we've got our moment from that, because that's Austin and Brett. So, and I don't think there's anything else that's even touches that.
Somebody out there is going, Ahmed Johnson and Road Warriors. But no. 14's got Undertaker and Kane, but that's not the moment compared to Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, the Kane debut is obviously a much bigger moment in the landscape of things. I guess the only moment you'd say would be the Undertaker's entrance being kind of like...
That's a good entrance.
Yeah, but again, it's just another like nice entrance, which is fine. Like, it's a good moment. It's a good thing to replay, especially across his career at WrestleMania. But I don't think it's anything particularly special. And the only other thing would be Austin beating Michaels, but I don't think the moment itself doesn't, because we knew that Austin was being crowned and what he would become, but there's nothing about the moment in which he won it which gives an indication that it's going to be as big as it is.
And that sound clip is something that's like huge. The Austin era has begun, and
there's also the Mike Tyson of it all.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people would break an argument for it. I would put it up on in the maybe pile, but I don't think I would ultimately end up picking that as one of the 4 if we went the 4. And if we went with the 6, I still don't think I would end up potentially going in that. It sort of, I think if you look at Stone Cold Steve Austin's career and you say like, what are the top 10 moments of his career or something, that's a different story. But if you were to say, picture Stone Cold's rise to the top, I think more people would either picture Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your ass, or they would picture WrestleMania 13.
That or stunning McMahon for the first time.
Yeah, that too.
Would be probably the things that help build it up.
Then you go to WrestleMania 15, which is an event completely built around Austin.
Yeah, but it's a very forgettable show, though.
It speaks to the strength of that era. That like it broke records. Like it was the first WrestleMania since I think 5 to break pay-per-view records because of the strength of that era. But it's not a strong show in terms of moments.
Yeah.
For me, I think the 2 moments that stand out are Triple H turns heel, which sets him up to actually be the guy. But no one's going to say that. And Undertaker hanging Boston.
Yeah, I was gonna say the iconic moment, or the moment that most people remember from this show, is Hangman. Yeah,
It's
Boss
Hangman Adam
Man.
Page against Grayson Waller.
Yeah, I mean, this is where Hangman got his inspiration from, but no, it's Boss Man swinging from the top of the Hell in a Cell, and that
Yeah.
is like, and this was the point where they had already completely jumped the shot with the Hell in a Cell.
Yeah,
Agree.
they
Yeah.
were doing a lot of these.
Because like this was like what was it? The first Hell in a Cell match was in '97 for Bad Blood, and then so this '99. I think this is probably
13 months later.
Yeah, it's a little bit longer than that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably closer to 16.
Like about 16, 17 months. But I think this was like their fifth Hell in a Cell match. They definitely did loads of them in between the Austin and Foley one. I think they did like 3 or 4 more off of that in the less than a year afterwards from that match. So, and they decided that they had to, because the whole story around this, not that I think there was much story outside of, well, it was a weird heel versus heel thing, because it was Undertaker that's trying to abduct Stephanie and doing all of this other weird shit with the McMahon family as part of the ministry. But then McMahon is also the heel that's trying to take the title off of Steve Austin, and Boss Man's one of his hired goons. So it was like a match between two people that no one really wanted to see fight each other because.
So I think, and I could be wrong, I'm not like the Attitude Era expert, but I do think at that point Taker was still face because he was attacking Vince. And no, because it's after that Shane turns on Vince when Rock loses because he says you're a loser and I'm gonna run things now, and then that's when like Stephanie starts to appear on TV.
But I think that like Undertaker's heel at this point because of it's the stuff that he did with Kane leading up to like him fighting Austin in those kind of like freeway feuds that they were having after like SummerSlam '98 when Undertaker was definitively a babyface, but then they kept doing stuff with Undertaker and Kane aligning themselves with Vince to try and take on Austin. It's all a super confusing period that for some reason became the most popular period in wrestling history because it was just all a load of just throw as much shit against the wall and slap some tits on the screen and everyone's going to love it. Yeah. And that's kind of, but yeah, and look, one of the most defining factors of the whole Attitude Era is how shit the WrestleManias were until 17. Because like 15 has that moment, and 16, I don't think there is a defining moment of 16 because it is such a terrible pay-per-view with no singles match outside of the Cat versus Terry Runnels in a stink face. No, that wasn't the stink face match. That was just some sort of
was a throw you out the ring. I
think it was just a cat fight. It was just a cat
fight. There, yeah.
And it's just like that's the only singles match on that show.
But then you gotta, and I think you'll probably say TLC 2 eclipses it, but that fucking ladder match is so special.
It is a special match, but like I don't think that there's a defining moment in that match. Whereas if you go the following year to TLC 2, there is Edge spearing Jeff Hardy off the ladder.
Yeah, and that's where this is that range where I wasn't watching. So when it comes to WrestleMania 2000, I had already checked out by Mania 2000. I didn't watch that show. So I wasn't there to watch the TLC matches like as they were happening. And they all blend together to me as being like, they're fantastic, but I can't tell you which moments happen in which match. And I couldn't tell you, like, if you were to say, like, when does the TLC moment happen of Edge spearing Jeff Hardy? I'd be like, oh, that's at Mania. And then you'd be like, which Mania? And I'd be like, fuck, I don't know. You know, like that kind of thing.
It's at 17. It's the second one. So the first one, it is still like an iconic ladder match to set the table for it, as it were. But I think that like TLC 2 eclipses it in terms of just that big moment is like the defining one that you'd see from it. Because there's no real, like, I guess the standout moment from that one is probably like Bubba going through like a load of tables set up on the outside, going off a ladder. But then they did the exact same thing on WrestleMania 17, just in a bigger and more spectacular way. So yeah,
I'd put the Edge Spears Hardy thing into the potential list, but I think that's the main takeaway.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a contender. And then the other big contender for 17 is like
Heel turn?
Austin. Yeah, the heel turn. Like, I'd argue that this is like a really strong contender, not necessarily for the moment itself, but the fact that that moment is really the end of the Attitude Era.
There's
Like, it's the end of the Monday Night Wars. Yeah, it's all this stuff.
Yeah, no, you go ahead, because that's exactly what I was going to say.
Well, it's the end of the Monday Night Wars. This is the first show after they pretty much immediately after they'd purchased WCW.
Literally 6 days later.
Yeah, and you have Austin decide to turn heel, join Force Man, and it's like at that moment, I'd say you wouldn't know it at the time, and obviously there's so many other factors to get involved with things as well. But that is the moment where the downturn started. Like, this is when that is the moment where wrestling became less popular. It went from being the mainstream thing to being not necessarily on the outskirts, but just being more of a peripheral thing that, you know, you occasionally brought out for like celebrity appearances and stuff like that. But it was never as big again after that moment.
And we're still firmly in the Tony's Not Watching era for like WrestleMania 18, but you got Rock and Hulk Hogan that stare down.
18. 18 is like, yeah, that's the moment, is the Rock and Hogan. It's just the match and just the, you know, the original stare down. I mean, the match itself is just one big extended moment, really.
Yeah.
It's still a decent match, but it's very basic, as you'd expect. Actually, just before we dive into that a bit more, I forgot one other iconic moment from 17, which is Linda McMahon standing up. and that sounds like the weirdest thing to say. It's like, why is a woman standing up the biggest moment? But it was. I don't think the crowd popped for anything more that night than Linda McMahon standing up from her chair.
Crazy.
You know what's funny about that? Genuinely, because rightfully so, it gets panned a lot now because it was kind of garbage. But the McMahon family drama and that soap opera-esque element of things had people so invested that when Linda McMahon, who had been comatose in a wheelchair, stood up out of the wheelchair, place blows. And what else can you say? Like,
I could say it's not making the list, but at the same time,
it's not making the list.
I probably would have popped if I was watching it at the time.
The fuck back down, but you know, we can't have our way.
Yeah. So yeah, 18 Rock Hogan is the big thing. As much as Triple H wanted to try and make it about himself by putting himself in the main event, but failed on that front. But I don't think there's anything else from 18, because again, that's like the downturn is very much set in place at that point. But Rock Hogan is just
that's, if you're gonna put something on like the face of WrestleMania 18, it's that.
That's one of the ultimate vibes matches.
Yeah,
of all time.
That's the best vibe match that exists.
Yeah.
19 I wasn't watching, but a lot of people, you know, go crazy over Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle, naturally.
So that's a great show. Great moment. It's hard to say.
19 is one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. It's probably my favorite WWE pay-per-view of all time. At least maybe just from WrestleMania standpoints, because it had other good shows as well, like SummerSlam 02 and stuff like that as well. It's like high up, but it's probably my favorite WrestleMania of all time. But I will admit that, like, that's just through the sheer quality of most of the matches, and a lot of them aren't very moments based. Because Hogan McMahon is just it's just a insane sports entertainment match.
Objectively, and I've said this before, and I mean it. It's my favorite Hulk Hogan match. It's genuinely.
It's high up there. It is very high up there.
Fun wrestling match.
Yeah, two pieces of absolute shit, but, like, you know, they could have a fun match and put that together. And Rock and Austin, again, it's a good moment. It wasn't so much for me because I hadn't didn't know as much about the history of them prior to it, but like it was nice to watch. And Lesnar Angle, the only moment is the botched shooting star press.
Yeah, that's not that's not going to make the Mount Rushmore moments.
No,
but here's where I could make an argument. How do you rank the video package of Austin and Rock?
For
because that's like, if there's one video package that stands out for most wrestling fans, that's the one that they think of. And there's a certain element of like, maybe you kind of maybe throw a video package on there, because that could sum up.
My Way video package might be it. That might be the 17 moment.
But it is like an absolutely great one. I don't know if it would make the Mount Rushmore for me, but it's certainly high there. For me, there's 3 WrestleMania video packages that always spring to mind. It's that one. There's the Daniel Bryan Monster video package, which I think is the next best one they've ever done, and the Miz one for WrestleMania 27. Funny enough,
yeah, that was a really good one.
But yes, so again, none of them. I don't think any of them would make the Mount Rushmore for me, but they're all like worthy discussion. Like if we wanted to do like a Mount Rushmore of the greatest WrestleMania video packages, it's probably those 3 and one other, and we'll try and find one other one. But all right, now we get into a bit of if we again go chronological, a bit of a controversial one. Benoit and Guerrero. Obviously, it's been so tainted through the events that happened just years afterwards. Mm. But at the time,
it was huge.
It was a huge moment, because it's like that. Those are 2 guys that just didn't fit the mold, holding both of the company's top world championships, hugging in the middle of the ring with confetti coming down. For people that what followed their journey through ECW, WCW, the trials and tribulations they had to face in WWE by not being like your classical top guys, and then winning the top titles, or in Benoit's case, winning the top title, Guerrero retaining his title. It just felt like this is a moment for the wrestling fans. Like, and as it has been absolutely spoiled by a crazy man and his the thoughts that just completely overrode him to do the most heinous shit you could possibly think of.
That arguably stemmed from the death of the other man in the ring.
That happened just a year. That just happened just a year and a half after this. So it's a moment that is completely tainted by. It was completely destroyed 3 years after it happened. But I still think it's
something that it's worth discussing. And yeah, it's the type of thing that if Benoit would have died in circumstances like Eddie, then it doesn't have that tainted element to it. And then it probably does become one of the top.
Yeah, I think it gets played every year.
Yeah, then it becomes like, okay, that's very well within the discussion. But Benoit fucked up his own legacy and a bunch of other people's legacies, and he ruined it. Yeah,
I mean, go ahead.
No, it's because I'm fine. You can go ahead.
No, there's also so much else from that show. Show doesn't get talked about a lot, but there's a lot there. It's the final match of The Rock for 7 years. Well, at one point, we didn't know if he'd come back at all. It's the WrestleMania debuts of Cena, Orton, Batista. It's the Goldberg Lesnar, the piss poor crowd reaction.
The bad version of that match.
Yeah, and also their exits, and you think they're never coming back. Like that, the tagline of that show was "Where it all begins again," and it's cheesy as hell, but it's kind of accurate. Undertaker comes back as the dead man, and has this great entrance with Paul Bearer.
And this terrible match with Kane. It was I still stand by it that I don't think that Kane and Undertaker ever had a good match with each other.
I think 14 was the best match there.
It was the best, but it was still like, that felt like just finisher spamming.
That feud's story and aura than it is in ring quality, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But but that I'd say 20, like, the defining moment is the ending, the closing shot of them celebrating the ring, as tainted as it now is. And then we get to 21.
And you got like, we
Money in the
mentioned
Bank
like
is
a
the
great match like HBK and Chris Jericho. You got a great match of like Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle.
Best
But I
match.
don't know if you go WrestleMania moment for matches like that. So as much as it's like we kind of glossed over the Jericho HBK one, but it's like, yeah, I don't think I would go WrestleMania moment for that. It's like a hell of a match, but
it's a great match. Yeah.
Same
Like,
for Michaels and Angle, like hell of a match. I wouldn't go top 4 moment of Mania though.
WrestleMania 21 is interesting because this is the first year that the streak becomes a thing. Like it's even though they'd referenced it occasionally with things, like this is where it becomes like the streak is now a match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It's like a title that needs to be defended. And I don't think the match itself has any significant moment in it outside of that excellent reversal from a choke slam into the RKO, but Orton doesn't win. Spoilers. Undertaker doesn't lose at this point.
Yeah, if you didn't know, sorry.
Yeah. And the Michaels Kurt Angle is one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, from my perspective. But WrestleMania 21, I think the actual moment, which obviously wouldn't earn it a spot on the Mount Rushmore, but it's Shelton Benjamin running up that ladder to hit that clothesline in the Money in the Bank match. But that is
I think it's the birth of Money in the Bank in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, again, at this point, has been kind of overshadowed by plenty other Money in the Bank matches that are doing some crazy things and some other things, but it's
that one too, so.
It's also at the time and all that, like, amazing match and hell of a moment, and Money in the Bank is awesome. And if you said to me I needed to only have one ladder match moment from WrestleMania in history, I wouldn't pick this one over like Mania 10 or some other, but
or 17,
yeah. But to me, I'm like, major shout out to that. Like, Sheldon doesn't get enough love for some of the things that he's done.
Yeah.
You also have John Cena and Batista winning the world titles, and to a certain level of fans, they would be like, "Oh my god, this ending with Batista holding the title is the WrestleMania moment." It's not making the list for me.
The moment in that match that doesn't get talked about a lot now, Batista basically squashes Hunter. He beats the shit out of Triple H. And it's not going to be like this moment making thing, but like that was huge at the time. Because this was like Reign of Terror Triple H.
Yeah. And I think they're moments that look better in hindsight. Because you never knew at the time. I mean, you knew that they were like big deals and they'd crown them both, but it's a case of you never know how big they're going to become.
Yeah, I mean, no one at the time was like, "Oh, John Cena JBL is one of the most important matches in history." But if you look at modern history, John Cena JBL is probably one of the most important matches in history.
Yeah.
Move on to 22. Like, the moment for me is the edge spear to Mick Foley through the flaming table.
I would go so far as to say this is the most extreme moment in WrestleMania history.
Awesome moment.
That match is brutal. That match is fantastic. Got a lot of people bitching right now about Drew McIntyre. Edge is a guy who lost WWE Championship in 2 weeks and had the only moment that anybody cares about at that year's WrestleMania.
Yeah, I don't think there's like anything else that really topped it. They tried to do the Shawn Michaels McMahon, tried to recapture the same magic of the Hogan McMahon match from a few years earlier, and it didn't really connect as well. And the only other iconic moment I can remember from this show is like Nicky James grabbing Trish Stratus's snatch at some point during her match.
I mean, like, there's, again, because I'm a nerd, there's definitely elements of that show that are important. Like, this is the first time that both Michaels and Hunter start doing the crotch chops, and they're referencing the fact that they're going to bring DX back. This is the year Ray wins the world title, which, if you look at it on paper and say Ray, Angle, and Orton, you'd think that would be great, but it's actually like a 7-minute match. This is underrated one for me, but something only I'll bring up. This is the last WrestleMania sans COVID that's just in an average arena. This is just in the Rosemont Horizon or the Allstate Arena. After this, they start going into these massive stadiums, and you can't have a Mania that's outside of a stadium.
Yeah.
So I like this Mania for that reason.
Well, I mean, speaking of which, I think the next WrestleMania does have one which is very, very, unfortunately, Mount Rushmore worthy, which is the Battle of the Billionaires hair versus hair match.
Nah, fuck that guy. He needs to burn in hell.
He does need to. Well, he does.
Both of
the billionaires in this need to do that as well. But it is like this was like the biggest WrestleMania draw probably of all time up to that point. Like this match,
crazy what it was. I hate thinking about it now, but it really was.
Like as I say, the match itself is nothing. Even the whole like shaving the head fight isn't really nothing. It's just the whole vibe surrounding it. This felt like the biggest celebrity thing that they'd done in a long, long time.
At the time, and again, we know where we stand now, but at the time, Trump was a legitimate reality star, and they were able to capitalize on that. He gets the pop for clotheslining McMahon. It's a moment, and unfortunately, it's probably the moment from this particular Mania. But as Tony said, fuck that guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fifth most attended WrestleMania in history for a single event show. It had the most amount of pay-per-view buys until WrestleMania 28. Like,
I'd like to point something out.
And it's all built around that match. Like, none of the other matches are real draws to the show. It's that match.
I'd like to point something out. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. When's the last time they've been to Detroit for a Mania? That felt like wow, 20 years later, we're going back to the place of WrestleMania 3. We're in this huge stadium with this huge stage. Like, it felt like a moment at a time where, like, the shows all felt different. This felt like a separate show. This felt like it was huge.
Now, 24 has its fair share of moments. And that is also a special event for me, just on like a personal level when it comes to my favorite moments and stuff. 23 was... It was weird. It was like 22. I was a little bit aware of something happening, but I hadn't gotten back into it yet. 23, I was fully back into it at that point, but I was still being a little bit like, I don't know how much I want to invest in this, but I know the full build of like all these things. Like I was, I have been watching leading up to WrestleMania 23. By the time we get to 24, I'm already writing stuff online, and I'm already like gestating like to mark a moment and everything. And 23, I watched, if I'm remembering correctly, I watched on like a stream that I had found on some shitty website, like just in my basement by myself, like nothing special, nothing fun or whatever. 24, I go over to Dace's house. And, we're having fun. We're, some other people come along. We're watching this and enjoying the fucking show. And from the very beginning of that show, when you got like, a stupid little moment like Hornswoggle getting thrown, the trash can thrown at him or whatever, to like the Money in the Bank ladder match being fun. It doesn't hold up as well in, the grand scheme of things. But at the time, it was fun. You got like Floyd Mayweather and stuff. Like that was fun. But you got the two real main things that stick out for that, and I think are well worth in the discussion. Shawn Michaels retiring Ric Flair, obviously in the discussion. And for my money, Undertaker Edge is one of my absolute favorite matches and moments of all time. I think that's a fucking fantastic end to WrestleMania. The whole thing with Charles Robinson running down to the ring was like epic at the time. Taker finishing that whole rivalry with Edge and, the capacity that they did and everything leading up to it and all. I absolutely love Undertaker Edge at Mania 24. I don't think I can make an argument for that being a Mount Rushmore in the grand scheme of everybody else's opinions and stuff, but for my own personal Mount Rushmores, that would probably be in there.
I would certainly I certainly would go against obviously the Edge and Undertaker one just because I understand it's it's a big moment for you and that's totally valid, but I just don't think in the grand scheme of things it's that big of a deal. I think it's Undertaker's best WrestleMania match.
Yeah, well, the year afterward I think changes.
Before the Michaels one obviously, but in terms of world title matches, it's probably his best one.
Yeah,
and because I don't really rate either of the either of the later Triple H ones. I think they're fine. I don't think they're as special as some people make it out to be, the end of the era stuff. I know we'll talk about that when we start talking about 28. But the Ric Flair retirement, again, it's one of those ones that is a big deal and it's certainly definitely worthy of discussion. But the "I'm sorry, I love you" super kick is the defining part of that match. But it's one that has slightly been tainted by the fact that Flair just won't stay down and just keeps coming back to do stuff. It was just it's they crafted a very perfect retirement moment for him, and then he just wouldn't stay retired. And his last actual match saw him supposedly have a real heart attack in the middle of it. So, I don't. As I say, it doesn't take the moment if you just try and suspend your disbelief and you were there at the time and it felt very real. But the fact that he was just wrestling for TNA 2 years later just kind of takes the shine off of it a bit.
At the time, it felt like it was the end of a childhood thing. And that was also before some of the stuff about Ric Flair had come out about him being as much of a piece of shit and everything like that. So it's that felt very much especially for somebody like me who was okay, now I'm getting back into the wrestling side of things and there's this new generation of people and all, that felt very much like closing the chapter of a part of that for me. So that's up there. I don't know if it'll be quite a lock for a Mount Rushmore type thing, but it's up there, I think.
If he would have stayed retired, it is, but he didn't.
25, I don't think actually has a real. I know obviously Undertaker vs Shawn Michaels is in many people's eyes the greatest WrestleMania match of all time.
Yep.
Maybe even the greatest WWE match of all time in some people's eyes. But it's not really. Again, if we're talking about matches and they can count on this, then maybe. But it's not really a moment.
The moment is more 26 and Taker retiring Michaels. And
even then, I don't feel that doesn't feel to me as special as the Flair one.
In some ways, it doesn't. Yeah, and it's weird because hard for me to say. Yeah,
and that one is even more bizarre because Michaels actually did at least until one blood money covered paycheck came his way. He did actually stay retired, but it just doesn't feel that. Maybe it's just because it came so soon off the Flair one. It just doesn't feel as big of a deal. But
it felt like it shouldn't have happened. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still it's a nice thing to have. And then if you are looking at 26 as well, if you were looking at bad WrestleMania moments, I mean,
Bret Hart and Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history, arguably the worst match in WrestleMania history. And I just it's one of those ones. It's one of those ones where you look at it and go, okay, this is. We're listening. Here's the best moments. Here's the worst moments. Do we count the worst moments as actual WrestleMania? But I don't think it'll make it on the Mount Rushmore. But it's still it's worth discussing for just how truly awful it was.
Absolutely terrible. And just one of the if we did do a worst, I don't know if we're gonna do a worst out of this, but I doubt it because we're already going pretty long.
For that. We're basically just doing a history of WrestleMania thing as well on top of this.
Yeah.
We'll try and speed up. Well, I can speed up a little bit. 27 has nothing.
Well, see, that's where we start getting into. Honestly, I think we're gonna speed run through most of these other WrestleManias because we're halfway through the manias. But 27's
big
got
fights.
The Miz beats John Cena, and the Rock is involved and everything, and there's Triple H and Undertaker, but Triple H and Undertaker it's to bring back Star Wars, and The Godfather. Like, when people say that they love The Godfather, what they mean is they love Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. And when people say that they love, and I fucking absolutely love those movies, two of the best of all time. When people say that they love Star Wars, they mean that they love Star Wars Episode 4 and Episode 5 more than almost anything else. Because if you say Empire Strikes Back, one of the greatest movies of all times, absolutely. But it depends on A New Hope. And The Dark Knight, absolutely one of the greatest comic book films of all time. It cannot exist without Batman Begins. And it's the Undertaker and Michaels thing. 25 is a better match than 26. 26 has the retirement moment. So in a lot of people's eyes, they look at Undertaker Michaels and they go, wow, that match is 25 plus the end of 26. And when they look at Undertaker and Triple H, they go, wow, great match. What they really mean is 27 and 28. They don't mean either one of them separately. And I would argue the end of the era pose is the thing that matters more than anything else.
It's another one of those things, and I do that. Like, if we're being cheeky, we group all 4 of those matches together.
They basically are, yeah. Moment. It's the Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Triple H quadrilogy, or whatever you want to call it.
And it's one of those things of, if Taker stays down, probably one of the most iconic moments ever.
And Triple H, if like that's the end of Triple H's in-ring career as well. Like,
would have saved us some other moments.
It was closer to the end of Hunter's than it was Taker's.
I'd say the defining moment from that whole series is that kick out of the switching music into the pedigree in that Hell in a Cell match. That's like, that encapsulates everything, I feel, like in one moment, where it's like all 3 guys involved in this one spot, that everyone just thought for the split second that was the end of the Undertaker streak was coming in.
Yeah, like those fucking, they're still egomaniacs, and they're gonna end Undertaker's streak together.
Yeah.
Like,
we did gloss over it, but shout out to the Miz. He's not going to get on the list, but like, Miz doesn't get enough credit for some things, and it's cool that
by the way,
he had one of the worst WrestleMania matches of all time in the main event matches of all time, so I'm not giving him that much credit.
The video package and stuff though too. Like,
the video package was good,
yeah.
But that's more like shouted production too.
Yeah.
Since we're talking WrestleMania 28, Undertaker, Triple H, shout out to JR. I think that's the last Mania match he calls, and it's an end of an era in that way. And he's still, when he was on, he was so good.
And as much as you group things together, Miz Cena was about setting up Rock, and then you got Cena Rock, and then you got Cena Rock again the next year. And as somebody who was at 29, fuck that. That does not deserve to be on there.
Cena Rock 28, important. Cena Rock 29,
yeah. 29, nothing. Taker and Punk was fine. Triple H and Brock was a waste. They fucked over entrances. They fucked my hot dog up. You know what I mean? Like, never gonna let them live that down.
But 30, we got things.
30's got some things.
You know, as much as worst moments of WrestleMania can include Daniel Bryan with the 16 seconds or whatever loss. You got Daniel Bryan winning the WWE title in the main event and all that stuff, and it's hard to argue against that as being one of the top ones.
It's one of the best modern ones of all time, certainly. But yeah, I mean, 30 has really big ones. I mean, you have that moment, you have the end of the streak, which is just because they built it up so much, and as much as we like joke. I don't know if you're joking at this point about this being the start of the worst timeline of life.
I mean, it comes down to, it's either, this is so stupid to admit, but it's either we're on the worst timeline in the world because Undertaker lost his streak to Brock Lesnar, or because of Harambe, or because of 9/11. And it's like,
And then we lived through all three.
The fact that it's a trifecta of that, and then you get COVID, and then you get the election. It's like those are the things that all those things ruined everything for everybody. So Undertaker on the pro wrestling side of things, Undertaker's streak ending is the timeline shift that fucked everything over. So it needs to be part of the discussion, though. Like,
it's an iconic WrestleMania moment. Yeah.
Again, hate to sound like a broken record. If he had stayed down. If he had stayed down, one of the most important moments of WrestleMania history. And by the way, fuck WWE. It took them, 15 years to capitalize? Like, and just say, hey, Brock Lesnar now has the streak spot where the Lesnar match in itself is a main event.
They tried to a certain extent with, like, you know,
they made him the final boss in terms of always giving him the belt.
Yeah, and they you know, hey, big match against Ambrose, but then like nobody cared and they didn't put the effort into it and stuff. But it's hard to argue against, as much as it stings and as much as it sucks and whatever. The Undertaker streak ending is well within the discussion. Well,
speaking of Sting, we're on to 31. Although Sting versus Triple H, I don't think will be in the discussion.
Yeah, no.
But the heist held around the world should be in the discussion.
That's a powerful moment. Seth Rollins cashing in Money in the Bank. I think it's in the discussion.
I think it's a major contender. Yeah,
it's the greatest ever use of Money in the Bank.
Yeah,
and so I think, and that's obviously a gimmick that made its mark in WrestleMania at the start, and so yeah, I definitely think that it's worth discussion because from a modern standpoint, it's one of the most iconic, definitely.
And it's not going to make the list, but just an extra shout out for another thing Rollins does on that show. That the RKO from Randy Orton at WrestleMania 31. Oh, yeah. It's one of the best RKOs of all time.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Certainly not on the list, but like if we were doing Mount Rushmore of Randy Orton RKOs, that would certainly be in the discussion. That, Evan Bourne.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's that one, the Evan Bourne one.
The one where he does a giant split in the air afterwards.
That's, which one was that? That was
Mark Henry.
That's when he did get Mark Henry in 2011, and he just does a split because he's super babyface.
You know what? We might as well just add it into here. We might as well just do the Mount Rushmore. It's because we're already in the list or whatever. We got Henry, Rollins, Bourne, and then
is that one that he's done to like Javon Evans or something? Was like really like. Was it? There was definitely someone.
He almost got Evans.
Oh yeah,
if that would have connected, that would have been up there.
Oh yeah, that was he missed that one, didn't he? That was the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe the one with like Undertaker when he
gets the choke slam into the RKO. I'd sign off on that.
We'll do that for now. I can't think of all the ones that he's done off the top of my head, but he's done quite a lot of them, I think. So
really great ones over the years. Yeah.
32 is a dreadful show.
It's the worst WrestleMania I've ever seen.
So to bring back the let's ask what the AI can hallucinate.
Is it the League of Nations versus the New Day? Is that his big one that you'll come up with?
It at least has given me a better list when it comes to me saying, give me the top 3 from every single WrestleMania. And this has down Shane McMahon's Hell in a Cell jump. Don't fucking care. AJ Styles just being there. Sure, whatever. That's not a moment for that. And then Zack Ryder winning the IC title. Okay. I was a fan of it. It's not going on this list.
No, definitely not. Like, yeah, I mean, this has so many. The best match of the show is the women's title match, and just having the introduction of the women's title could be. It's not going to be a Mount Rushmore moment, but I guess that was the best moment of the show.
Yeah,
unless you want to count like the Rock using a flamethrower. Yeah. So
33, you got the Hardy Boys return. It was great, but it's not going to go on the list.
Huge pop though.
Oh yeah, massive pop. Yeah.
Guys, stop me if you heard this one before. But if Undertaker would have stayed down, that ending where he like puts his stuff in the ring and hugs his kid and his wife and like leaves, that's the moment.
Oh,
but he doesn't stay down.
I mean, talk about worst WrestleMania moments as well.
John Cena Nikela.
Yeah,
no, I was talking about John Cena could be a thing as well. We talk about that, but like the worms on the canvas.
The worms.
The worms. I hated the worms.
There was a lot of like hindsight really bad. Because the John Cena Nikki Bella thing, for whatever you want to say about bad matches, you can go back and watch bad matches. This is a moment that's supposed to be real. And it's predicated and it's preceded with Al Roker's the ring announcer for some stupid reason. And Jerry Lawler, the entire match, is shitting on the idea of marriage. Only for these two to never get married.
Yeah.
Well, he would
go
know.
on to marry other people like within a year and have completely separate lives.
Yeah, it really is not one of those things that holds up in any capacity. And
No.
they wanted a moment, they got their moment, but then the moment moved on.
The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah. 34's got Ronda Rousey's debut, which is a big moment, but fuck her. Basically, she seems like a pain in the ass.
It's the last good match of Triple H and Kurt Angle's careers.
It's one of the only really good matches of Ronda Rousey's career in my mind.
The only really good matches of Stephanie's career.
There's more to come.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Daniel Bryan returns to the ring, but it really doesn't work out.
Yeah, not a terrible match, but like it just felt like a bit of a dash because basically you just spent the whole time being like this whole Shane McMahon babyface in peril story instead. So it's like
That's right. What a weird match.
And something that
Shane's got
hasn't
the
held
weird
up in time that at the time was fun and all that, but hey, you've had almost 10 years. Nicholas, what are you doing, man?
That's right. That's right.
Why aren't you in the ring? Why aren't we getting Nicholas versus yeah, we're going like Nicholas versus Nick Wayne or something like that. Like, come on, you're a former tag team champion, and he was what, like 10 years old, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's 10.
10-year-old.
Yeah.
So it's like
He's 18 this year.
You're like in college or something. Like, get on that performance center, Nicholas. Nick Cohn for WrestleMania 45 or something.
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing would be like obviously the Undertaker John Cena match, but like the main moment is that is John Cena sitting in the crowd during the other matches and just like reacting to the match that's going to happen and just running backstage to say what happened. But yeah, other than that, 34 is not really worth discussing that much.
35, he got some big moments.
Got the women.
Got
the women.
You know, the two that stand out more than anything for WrestleMania 35 are, of course, Kofi Mania and Becky main eventing.
And the greatest meme of all time. The Mrs. Dad.
Well, of course, he's going to be happy about Kofi winning. Kofi's also his good.
Great meme.
I thought the meme sort of like one. I don't know whether it was a meme moment. Was it Batista stumbling into the ring as well? Falling into the ring.
You know what I want? Give me what I want. Yeah, Rollins beats Brock. Who cares, really? In the in the long run, and like that's kind of what happens with a lot of these WrestleManias. Is like, if you've noticed, we haven't mentioned a single Roman Reigns thing except for when he got cashed in on. Because who fucking cares? He had like 7 matches that are main eventing or 10 matches or whatever, and it doesn't fucking matter if he had that match with Triple H and whatever, and
which isn't his fault, but he has the worst Undertaker match.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, and really the women's title match at the end should be like a big moment, and like it is in like historical context, but the match itself is just so. Even the ending is bad. Yeah, the ending's bad, and the fact that it was the 16th match on the night. It was just way too long. I'm saying that as like someone who watches AEW pay-per-views and don't think they're that bad, but this show was way too long. Like,
all the more reason why they needed this 2 nights, Rob.
All right,
no, they did.
36 is the COVID one. So, I mean, there's two things here, and it depends on your end of the spectrum. But it's the Boneyard match, which is obviously the end of Undertaker's, the actual definitive end of Undertaker, and a great match in its own right. Like probably arguably the greatest cinematic match that they did in that period of time. And then the art project, the Firefly Funhouse match, which is polarizing, again, I don't think either of them go on to the Mount Rushmore, but they were
No.
certainly like they made a memorable thing, and also like the match which famously led to Dave Meltzer tweeting about how he'd rather be suffering water torture than watching Edge versus Randy Orton in that last man standing match.
Edge comes back for the first time in 9 years. And it's weird because it's in an empty arena.
I remember coming on the post show after the show itself, and talking about how that might be the worst WrestleMania match I've ever seen.
I enjoyed it at the time, but I enjoyed it for what it was worth in an environment of like, this is fucking weird. And I remember watching that match, having a video on YouTube in the background of very low crowd noise, because I was like, oh, I'm going to try to see if that increases Mania. Because at that point, we had already seen multiple matches. And I was like, oh, this is weird. Let me see if I can get a little bit of that vibe. And it helped a little bit, but
I mean, there's plenty of things during the pandemic that increased Mania, but that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like Drew McIntyre beating Brock, it goes on the list because there's no crowd and it's weird. And yeah, Boneyard, I would say no to. I think Boneyard's overrated as all hell too.
I don't think that's fair, because I think it's legitimately a good way to end Undertaker's career, because they were able to actually smoke and mirrors it to where he looks like a star.
37 has the we're back from COVID moment, and that's important in the grand scheme of just like COVID and stuff, but it's not Mania Mount Rushmore to me.
It's the moments that come to mind. This one is the fact that it almost got rained out.
Yeah, that was really interesting to watch when that happened. Yeah.
You had Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny,
interesting. Yeah, which is a great thing. Bianca and Sasha, which is
fantastic match.
I always like to think that it's the actual first women's main event, because it was just a better match. And Roman pinning both Edge and it's the final women's main event for now. And then Roman pinning Edge and Daniel Bryan at the same time, which is probably the most interesting thing that he's done at WrestleMania. Oh, and from another bad WrestleMania standpoint, Randy Orton versus The Fiend, and that fucking shit. Like, again,
I missed that match because I was taking a shower and it was over in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's one of my least favorite. That took forever to lead to fucking nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah. God rest Bray Wyatt, but like him and Randy Orton had the worst chemistry of arguably anybody in WWE history,
and they kept going back to it.
Yeah, kept going back to it.
Yeah. But to me, Belair and Banks is the top thing from that, and
yeah, I'd say so.
I don't think that I would Mount Rushmore that necessarily, but there's a little bit of a discussion at the very least. Like at the beginning of that, the two of them crying and it being two black women headlining that and all. Like there's a lot of history that goes in that, so I think it's at least in a ranking of some kind, but not necessarily top 4.
I think it's the only it's the standout women's moment in WrestleMania history.
Yeah, and we might end up making a separate list of that too, because we have 4 that we could do with that. Yeah. 38 has Stone Cold against Kevin Owens.
Yeah, which is big.
There's fun things like Knoxville and Sami Zayn. Wouldn't Mount Rushmore it, but that was a hell of a fun match.
Go to another worst moment of McMahon versus Pat McAfee.
But McMahon bookends his career as a character by taking the 2 worst Stone Cold Stunners in human history. The first one he took in 97 and the last one he took in 2022.
But yeah, other than that, Roman main events again, whoop-de-doo, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
39.
Because he merges the belts and we lose champions. But yeah.
Important within a year that's, it doesn't matter as much anyway, kind of things.
Yeah.
Hey, we've had a few years to think about it now. Was it the most stupendous WrestleMania of all time?
Stupendous is a good word. Not many people know what that means.
Well,
people have to look it up.
I want to go to 39 because it's good. It's interesting to revisit this one now, because after what happened at 40 and all this stuff. Because I remember us going on the post show after this, Tony in particular, and you felt like you just wanted to stop right there and just leave wrestling behind
I mean,
entirely
I
in
did
that
as
moment.
well.
Yeah. And it's just like after the first night we were in really good spirits because of the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn and Usos match.
Yeah.
And just
It was just a good
the first night.
first night.
Yeah. Outside of Austin Theory versus Cena, which just sucked, the rest of the show was really good.
That Grayson Waller moment, though. But yeah, then, WrestleMania 40 changes things. And I'll go ahead and I'll say it. I think Cody's finale at WrestleMania 40 is something that deserves to be on the list.
A lot of people are already talking about it like it deserves to be.
I think it does. To me, that is like one of the absolute top moments in pro wrestling history for like as like a fandom. To me, that on paper, some of the moments are more moments than it is match quality and some other things. And you know, if I'm going to say bell to bell, which match would I watch more than anything else? It's not going to be Cody versus Roman over like Taker and Michaels, but to me, that is like pinnacle sports entertainment. And I would very firmly make the whole finish the story thing in my top 4. And it's dependent upon 39 too. And, you know, I still think 39, it probably would have, it should have been the right call at that time, but they didn't fuck it up for the 40 at least.
It's one of the things that it's hard for me to kind of get behind because at this point I'm so unbelievably checked out on WWE by 39 and 40 to the point where I think 40 was the first WrestleMania I didn't watch like in any capacity.
You didn't watch 40? You didn't watch? I thought it was 41.
It might have been. I think
you watched parts of 40 and not all of it, maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember being on the post show for 40. So, like, I think that when I watched the Bloodline Rules match, I understand why a lot of people see it as like one of the greatest moments. For me, it's just nostalgia bait because it is just littered with here's the Undertaker cameo and The Rock's here as well. And I guess I probably did watch it because I think I remember watching The Rock and the tag match live. But at this point, I'm mentally not watching.
The thing with that one is you're waiting for a glass break and you get a gong. And just in the context of Rock, it probably should have been Austin, but they didn't pay him up.
But yeah, I mean, I think that it's certainly worth the discussion. It might not be one that I'm going to fight very hard to put into the 4, but I can understand why people make that argument. And then you get to that's the most recent one for 41. And
Bean.
Bean. Yeah, nothing for 41 really. Like, yeah, Undertaker in different years doing different things for streak stuff. You know, we kind of gloss by that, and we like gloss by titles, and we gloss by some big moments and stuff. And John Cena winning the 17th world title is a huge, huge moment, but I don't equate that, at least on my, perspective, I don't equate that to being like a WrestleMania moment. I picture that more of just like a Cena thing that happened,
I mean, the match wasn't good.
Right.
And it was overshadowed by this. Yeah, and it's overshadowed by that awful, like, Travis Scott like involvement as well. And and Cena being heel going into it, which felt like interesting, exciting at the time, but in hindsight it's now looked back on terribly. It's it overshadows the fact that he becomes the most winningest WWE champion of all time, but it's just overshadowed by it being a terrible story and a bad match and just an overall flat into that particular part of their feud.
And I don't think there's anything like really over the moon worth celebrating. Like, the girls had a fantastic triple threat.
Yeah, as a match, that's obviously the best match of, I'd say, the whole weekend.
CM Punk finally main events of Mania, but like, you have to know so much lore to even care.
Yeah, and it's also like night one of a buy one get one free WrestleMania. So
don't worry, they're giving them that Sunday night this year because they'll fix that.
So, but yeah, that covers like all of.
That's really sad because I feel like we
WrestleMania.
went long on the first 20 or first 25, and then after a certain point, it's just like there's nothing here. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. During a time where everything is positioned as
a moment.
WrestleMania moment,
Mhm.
you know, it really shows you how the branding turns everything into this like hollow.
It's almost like
vapid,
moments should come like somewhat
organically.
organically at the end of a more long-running pay-per-view, which gives you more appreciation for the moment itself, rather than just say, "Oh, being at WrestleMania is the moment itself." No, it should be the culmination of the journey that they've taken in the weeks and months leading into that show.
Yeah. Moments happen naturally from good things. They don't, when they artificially manufacture them, then it doesn't always hit. But we do have about 30 things on our list right now. So we got to narrow that down to at least 6, if not 4. I would say if we created a separate one for women's moments at WrestleMania, like we were talking about, let's get one of the potential side things. Just not to say that it doesn't make it on the actual list itself, but I think that we probably do have a 4 for that between Becky's main event, Belair Banks. Maybe you even throw in like a Hogan, or not Hogan, Savage and Elizabeth into there for that, because I mean it's a Miss Elizabeth moment just as much as it is a Randy Savage moment. I don't know if we have a 4th one that was like a obvious. There's not a 4th one on the list that I have down as like, I mean, Linda McMahon maybe, but like
I think that is it. I think that unfortunately, like, it's crazy that sounds, that is one of the biggest pops that I've ever seen from a wrestling crowd, was the Linda McMahon standing up.
And like some people would try to make an argument of something like, Asuka's streak being broken, but to me that's not a good thing to really be like, oh man.
When her just going up to Charlotte says, Charlotte was ready for Asuka.
Ready for Asuka. I'm going to lose every other match at WrestleMania as well. She's on a track record right now. If she loses again, she apparently ties the record for the most losses at WrestleMania.
It's great.
I think that's held by, I think that Triple H holds that record, I think.
Or it's maybe it's not the most losses, maybe it's the worst record. Somebody, I'm blanking on who it is now, is 0-7 and she's 0-6. So yeah, great track record for Asuka. But if we were to separate those, then that gives a shout out to those. But I think that the Becky one at the very least is within the discussion of maybe going on the actual thing. I would just make the argument, as much as it makes sense to put that on there, the match itself's not all that great. Ronda Rousey is a pain in the ass. The end of the match sucks, and it's after midnight, and everybody's tired, and it
doesn't feel the way that it's advertised as being.
Like, it makes sense in the history books, but is that something that when you watch it back, do you get goosebumps? I don't quite. So it sounds misogynistic to be like, oh, the most important thing that any woman has ever done at WrestleMania wouldn't potentially go on the list. But it's like, well, we're dealing with moments within multiple matches, at least around 5 to 10 matches for 42 years. There's a lot to work with on that. We have 30 something things on this list.
Like if we're gonna speed run it, I think it's Hogan slamming Andre.
Yeah, I'd say that's a definitive.
I think
Austin Brett's in the running.
I think Austin McMahon is in the running as it's the end of the Attitude Era. Good moment, bad moment. It's the end of the Attitude Era.
Yeah, if we're trying to narrow it down to like top ranking ones that could potentially do it, I think those ones are certainly in the main conversation. I think End of the Streak is in the main conversation.
I would say End of the Streak as well.
I don't think the Bryan one quite. I know what they're going for, and I know it was a big moment. Wouldn't go with Bryan. I wouldn't go with Brett winning the title from Yokozuna.
I would make more of an argument for Cody, then Brett.
Yeah, Cody is definitely in the conversation as like one of the most big modern ones. I don't know whether to do the Heist of the Century one. It feels big.
That's the next one I clicked on. Yeah.
But it's one that I guess could be, but I don't know whether it's as big as the other ones we've just mentioned. So, but maybe it is worth talking about. I don't think the Michaels entrance, in the grand scheme of things, is as big as the other ones. I wouldn't go Savage Elizabeth as like a main top 4 or 6 one. Trying to think of. I don't think there's too many more modern ones outside of like the Cody one and the probably like post WrestleMania 30. The only ones I'd consider would be the Heist of the Century, the streak ending, and the Cody one. I think that's all of the ones that would be top 4, top 6 worthy from 30 onwards.
I kind of have this in my. I'm separating some things here and there. I kind of have it down as like. Maybe this is a little weird to do it. I took Edge spearing Jeff Hardy and Edge spearing Foley, and I put them on the side as being like, I don't know if there's worth to do like best single move at WrestleMania and be like, that's like the best 4 moves that we've ever seen. But those would be potentially in there. But I don't think that they make the top 4 Mount Rushmore. I think in the grand scheme, the way that they didn't follow up with Kofi makes it hard for the Kofi Mania moment to be in the top 4. I thought it was hilarious that he tweeted out after Obafemi beat down Brock Lesnar, "Avenge us." Just, be the one black man that can beat Brock Lesnar instead of the other way around after his track record.
Yeah, we didn't mention the great Brock Lesnar Omos match.
Yeah. Triple H, Undertaker, end of an era thing. I think it gets overshadowed with some other stuff. Michaels, Taker, the retirement and all. I mostly have this down for my separate list. As much as we have big moments, Rock and Hogan staring at each other, or like Austin Era's begun, or Hogan Warrior, whatever, these different things. I kind of have it down to 8. Hogan slamming Andre, Brett and Stone Cold, finish the story, Brock beats Taker, Heist of the Century, Daniel Bryan closes WrestleMania 30, the Iron Man entrance, and Flair's retirement. Those are the main 8 that I've got. And I do think that Flair's retirement is like in that kind of discussion of like, as much as that moment meant a lot right then, he kind of screwed it over afterward. And that's like on the list of like the Benoit and Eddie Guerrero one. Yeah. And it doesn't hold up as well anymore.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't go with the Flair one just because of the reason that you just said. I wouldn't go with the Bryan one because I feel like it's in that category of, big closing night celebrations, and the Cody one kind of is a better version of that.
I mean, I think the takeaway from the Bryan one, Bryan wouldn't even consider it one of the top moments of his career.
No, he says he always talks about how that it doesn't mean as huge much to him.
It doesn't mean that much.
Also, if you think about the Yes movement, don't you think about the people in the ring on Raw?
Yeah, rather than like the closing thing of it. So maybe that one. Yes, I'd say that one falls short. I don't think the entrance for WrestleMania 12, I don't think that one is quite as iconic as the other ones, even though it starts a movement toward these like these big entrances, and that being like the thing that you do at WrestleMania. But so out of the 5 left, though, it's quite close between those ones about which ones you'd put in there.
So the 5, just to recap for anybody that's curious, Hogan slams Andre. This is in chronological order. Austin Brett at 13. Streak ends at 30. Rollins cashes in 31. Cody finishes story 40.
Yeah.
If I have to take one of those off the list to make that a top 4 instead of a top 5, I would probably take Undertaker's streak off. Just because of how much that became like a bad thing overall. And I don't know 100% if, like, you know, if you could go back in time and you could change it, I don't know if those people in charge would have made the same decision. Or if they would just be like, yeah, no, I was right. But I would go Rollins cashing in Money in the Bank is higher up, I think, than the Taker streak ending, just because of how, like, poorly they followed that up. So, poorly in the sense of they did the thing that they wanted to do. They wanted to build Brock up as the main guy, but then they spent 10 years not actually doing anything with him as the main guy, because the whole point of him being the main guy was to build up Roman, and then they were constantly not giving it to Roman. And then that also leads to the Rollins cash-in, which is like the Rollins cash-in kind of almost retcons the Undertaker streak thing, because you built up the whole thing for Brock to build up Roman, and then Rollins had to save the day.
So, out of those 5, the one that I would drop is the highest of the century, because even though it is definitely like an iconic moment, I think that in the grand scheme of things, it hasn't, like, Rollins has not really emerged as a top like that's sort of like the same level as a guy like an Austin or Rock, or I don't know, that's difficult to say, like, as other things, but even like a Cena or someone of that ilk in the time afterwards. I think that the reason why I would put, even if it is disappointing and is not like a positive or happy moment, or even if they were to like want to go back and do it again if they had the opportunity to with the streak ending, like the streak is one of the definitive emblems of WrestleMania for such a long period of time that I think the ending of it just needs to be on that, just to encapsulate everything the streak was, as well as the moment of it ending as well. So it's almost like not only just taking the ending into consideration, but also that being the kind of the defining moment of like 21 other matches that had taken place prior to it, leading up to that moment. So it's like that moment only really exists and only means something because of 21 other matches that happened before it.
Yeah, I think I would agree. The Undertaker's streak ending, no matter what, is a big moment for wrestling. It's one of the last moments, maybe outside of the Cody thing, where I remember genuine reactions of like, I'm so hurt that this thing that I thought was going to last forever is gone.
Well, then I guess that kind of makes the discussion. Do we call this, if we go with Hogan slamming Andre, Austin Brett, Cody, and Taker streak ending, does this podcast then be renamed? Because I haven't put the graphic up or anything. I haven't done that. Is this best WrestleMania moments, or is this biggest WrestleMania moments? Or is this most important WrestleMania moments?
I think it's most important.
Yeah, I'd say most important is probably the right term for it.
Because the way you categorize this is Hogan slamming Andre is the start of like WrestleMania being based on the biggest match rather than the celebrity spectacle. And it's like the solidification of the global expansion era. The Austin moment launches the Attitude Era in the minds of a lot of people. The Undertaker ending the streak thing is like the end of a lot of people's childhoods. And the Cody thing, for better or worse, is the start of the Paul Levesque era. And it was touted as like the start of the Paul Levesque era.
And then we would have some other ones that would be in the ranking for, we don't have to do like a B tier, C tier, or whatever. I think I'll actually, on the list, I'll just say like, here are other things that were in the running as like backups or something.
Yeah.
Other like most important things that are close to that, or, you know, if we did the Six Grandfathers thing, maybe these two other ones would be on this, out of this group would be Rollins cashing in Money in the Bank, Becky main eventing. I would put Becky main eventing over the Rollins cash in if it's most important. We got the Iron Man entrance as far as the spectacle entrance thing. And I guess like the end of the era thing.
I'd throw Austin McMahon in there as a potential as well, just in terms of like huge moment. And, you know, the end of an era in terms of the end of the Monday Night War and the Attitude Era kind of being unceremoniously ended.
And obviously, you go shout out to Savage and Steamboat as being like a very important, influential match and everything. But most important WrestleMania moments of all time, Hogan slams Andre, Stone Cold Steve Austin double turn with Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13, Undertaker streak ends at WrestleMania 30, and Cody finishes the story at WrestleMania 40. Sounds like a viable enough Mount Rushmore in my mind.
Yeah. It's spread out quite a lot over the years as well. It's like, it's not, they're not all just contained into one small period of time as well. So
1, 13, 30, and 40. You get one every 10 years.
You know, good luck to well,
42.
You guys mainly, but just let's wait until 50 or something comes around, then maybe we'll get another big one comes up.
That's your cue, Nicholas.
That's right.
So obviously, let us know if you agree or disagree. What would your picks be? If you want to do a Mount Rushmore or a Six Grandfathers or whatever you want to call it. You know, we've talked before in the past of like, hey, Mount Rushmore is whatever, but what's the Statue of Liberty one, and what's the Lincoln Memorial one, and whatever. You can throw out things like that. Keep in mind too about that Smark Madness tournament. Who's the greatest rival of AJ Styles of all time? Check out that Discord server, as mentioned before. All the Smark can play stuff. Redbubble and TeePublic. Hit the like button on this if you liked it. And toss a little spare change our way if you want to help keep us going and motivated and all. And check out the link tree at amangotree.com. You'll find all my links over there that you can follow. But make sure you're following Rob and Callum too.
Yep, follow me over at Dude Fleece. Check out insidergaming.com.
You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wigmost14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday over on smarkatmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. And head on over to the Fantasy League, also at www.fantasyleague.com, to see how our rosters are performing as we head towards WrestleMania and the close of this year's season.
Who knows? Maybe we're going to get a new all-time moment or something. I don't think so. But in any case, drop your thoughts. Let us know. And thanks for listening. And thank you in advance for checking out the next episode, which is going to be the Hot Tags on Friday, where we will talk about all the other things that have happened in the world of wrestling over the past few days. So adios for now. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.